Happy Hanukkah 2023, guys. I haven't really done my research. I don't really even know what the Jewish year is. 5,000 something. 5,700 something. Or 5,000. I don't even know. But, I'm towards the tail end of COVID. It's Friday right now. I've had COVID since I tested positive on Tuesday. I'm pretty sure Monday was the first time I was displaying symptoms, possibly even Sunday. But it's really hard to tell. But I can't talk too long, but I didn't want to go that long without posting anything into the holiday. It's like once you get a certain distance into it, it's like, okay, we're already some days in, so I wanted to at least be within the first day. This is the first podcast episode I've recorded for like a week now. More than a week, maybe. I don't even know. That was not my intention, coming into this week. I was really like pretty pumped up after LA Comic Con, and I was pretty inspired to do a lot of creative stuff, and then I got knocked out, so, by COVID, so it's my second time getting it. It sucks, dude. I'm more annoyed than anything else. I was in denial, too. I was like, this isn't what it is, like, it's just because of the weather or allergies or something, and like, nah, like, dang it. Like, once I felt that headache, I was like, it's COVID, it's actually COVID, but yeah, I just wanted to put in a quick few minutes, because this is going to be the first Sabbath and Hanukkah, and I don't know if you guys have plans. I don't know what you guys do. I know a lot of people don't celebrate it. I know a lot of people do. I personally have a pretty great interest in Hanukkah just because of my interest in biblical history and growing up in a culture that talked often about Jesus. That was kind of the central focus for the most part. Kind of. I don't know if that was the central focus. I think the central focus of the religion I grew up in, honestly, was probably the Sabbath, and second to that was probably thoughts on kind of like dietary kind of traditions. To be honest, that's kind of like what a lot of focus was on. But we were kind of taught that the focus is on Jesus. But I would say if you look at the majority of conversations, well, I wouldn't say that there was no focus on Jesus, though. I'm just saying, like, if I were to kind of tally up the amount of time we spent talking about Jesus, the life of Jesus, I'd say later on, when I was studying with the Messianic Jewish congregation, they really talked a lot about Jesus, because that was the main focus, was how did Jesus live, what did Jesus do, Jesus as a Jewish man 2,000 years ago, what was he doing, how was he living, what was he saying, where was he getting what he was saying, what was the culture like, how does it apply to us today. It wasn't just specific like traditions, it was more like what is it that mainstream Christianity is not maybe focused on, like where are they and where is Jesus when you read about Jesus, like what was Jesus doing. And I don't know, that approach really appealed to me. It always has appealed to me. And I'm not saying it's like the most right or the most wrong or whatever. I'm just saying, like, it appealed to me. It was something that I could kind of gravitate towards. Like, okay, like, we have a central focus that kind of makes sense. So this week, I had expected to kind of study more about, I was studying a bit about Talmud, about the Mishnah, before this week when I got COVID, and so that was like last week, and I was trying to study up on Hillel, which was the I think the main teachings that Jesus was coming from. So I don't have as much information about that as I'd like to have, because I did not finish reading the book I was reading or studying into it. Then all of a sudden, last night, Hanukkah starts, and I was like, I didn't even get to study what I was going to study about Hillel. And, in the New Testament, it does talk about the Festival of Lights. And I wanted to post something. Especially because my episode's going to be so short here. I wanted to post something. I listened to a historical lecture by Henry Abramson. I really like his history teachings. Now, for people who are Christians, it might be kind of not Christian enough, maybe. But for people who really like to learn about, the Jewish history of Christianity, which oftentimes the church does not teach. And that always bothered me, because it's like, the church does not teach that. Even though, like, all the early Christians were Jewish. But it seems like the church kind of prefers to kind of have their own religion going on that has, like, nothing to do with Judaism, almost. They don't want it to look or sound the same at all. And so it's kind of split off into this other religion that, it kind of just brings up so many questions sometimes that are just hard to answer, And for a lot of people, it just gets really confusing. I think it makes Jewish people confused, because they're like, what are those Christians doing? Like, it has nothing to do with them, they feel like. And then Christians are like, look at these Jewish people, like, they're so different. It has nothing to do with any of us. And then the Jews and the Christians are looking at the Muslims like, what are they doing? It's like, guys, like, there's so much overlap, it's like not even funny. But as I laugh when I say that, but I really wanted to just let Henry Abramson speak for himself with his history lecture. I don't think it's new. He had one about Paul. So if you know Paul in the New Testament, he wrote a significant portion of the New Testament. Paul, also Jewish. In the New Testament, he's initially called Saul, name changed to Paul. And basically, this lecture that Henry Abramson gives And mind you, Henry Abramson, if you see the way he looks, a lot of people mistake him for a rabbi. He's not a rabbi. He's a historian. He's a religious Jewish historian. So the way he dresses is like a religious Jew that almost looks like he's a rabbi. He's not a rabbi. I say that because, the way he's speaking is based on history. It's not based on, I'm not saying it's not based in religion. It's just not a preaching type of teaching. It's an educational kind of like intellectual teaching without necessarily like a spiritual motive. It's hard for me to say it because it's kind of hard to tease it out, but that's probably as good as I can explain it. But he has this lecture where he talks about the early church, from Jesus' followers, the disciples, the writing of the New Testament, Paul's writings, and basically shines a lot of light on how things look the way they do now. And I think that's a good place to start, because, at least for myself, when I got interested in studying these types of things, I think Hanukkah was probably the first thing I learned from a rabbi about the rededication of the temple and about the role of Rome in pagan rituals in the church. Pagan rituals in the Jewish temple, sacrificing of a pig on the most holy place and all these kind of things, and the need for the temple to be rededicated. So that's probably the first information I learned. It was kind of more about also learning about the Sabbath and, why do Jews worship Friday night to Saturday, sundown, when do Christians start, worshiping on Sundays, why was I part of a religion that didn't do it that way and understood the Sabbath, but still didn't look Jewish and looked very kind of Christianish. Again, I'm not saying any of it's bad or good. I'm just saying, like, a lot of people have an interest in this kind of stuff. They might not know where to look. So I'll post the link under this. My throat's getting kind of messed up, and my sinuses, so I can't really talk too much more right now, unfortunately. But that's about as much as I can say. But happy Hanukkah, guys. I'll try to post more when I can.